Welcome. Today we're going to talk about why when you've got the role, all of a sudden it still feels like your leadership is harder and not easier. Now, I know this was happened to me in the past too. I thought, hey, I got the role, I got the promotion. That must mean I have more influence, I have more authority. Things should be a lot easier right now, right? Now, if this feels familiar, you're not alone. All right. Here's something that I wanted to share because this is experience that my clients, a number of my clients have had. One of them, even just last week, was asked by one of our leaders, like, "Oh, are you a control freak?" In the middle of a board meeting when she's presenting the next action plan and strategy for her team and her department. Another client, an amazing HR director who was doing all this work, but her CEO didn't see it and was coming back in every time, had gone out to the golf course and came back. It's like, oh, I've got this great idea. So and so is doing this. We should be doing that as well. And she'd be like, hands in her hair, going like, what the hell? I have all that, like, that doesn't fit within the strategy for our organization, for our department. And so many women leaders tell me this. I've got the title, but it doesn't feel like I'm leading. It just feels like I'm surviving and just hoping for the best. Now, there's a couple of reasons that this happens. And there's a few traps that I've seen so many women fall into when they're in this progression, right? You've landed that role that you wanted, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, trying to do it all. And that's the first trap. You're still trying to be this problem solver rather than the person who is setting the agenda. So you're doing rather than actually directing where things need to go. The second trap is often this, I remember having like my calendar filled with back-to-back meetings. And you're like, oh my God, like, how do I get anything done? Well, the honest answer is you don't, because there is no time to think. There's no time to be more that person that sets the agenda, which was trap one, right? You're stuck firefighting endless operational details. So there is no space for you to actually think about, how do I shape the future for my department, for my organization? And the last biggest trap, and we've all fallen prone to this, especially as women in leadership, is this idea that we need to prove and justify every single decision that we make. And because you're constantly trying to prove yourself, nobody is really looking at it going like, oh, okay. And they're going to just give you the authority and the credibility that you are expecting. So what I wanted to share with this is, first off, is getting into the role, getting promoted. That's just the first step. But really owning the role and really embracing the power of your leadership, that is step number 2. So I wanted to give you some practical steps from how, like, hey, yes, like, we've gone from the euphoria of getting promoted, getting that next leadership role, now moving into what are the practical steps of how do I actually own the role? How do I embrace the power of my leadership? Well, the first one is moving from, instead of doing it all, being that problem solver, let's start being the one that's framing the conversation and leading that conversation within your team, but also within your management and within your greater leadership teams. So this doesn't mean that you're going to fix every issue. It does mean that you can start going, all right, here's what I see, here's what I propose, and then you start working on delegating that out to the right people. The second practical shift or thing to do is, it's not about necessarily saying more, but it's about saying the things in a way that it lands with the people that make the decisions, but also the people that need to execute it. So rather than thinking, okay, I need to be more in convincing mode, I have to convince people to do this. Convincing never works. It might give you short-term gains, but in the long term, it's exhausting for you and for the person you're trying to convince. So what we're looking for is, how can you build the influence with the way that you speak and how you speak, so that it lands without you having to go, okay, I have to repeat myself 5 to 10 times. Here I go. I need to prove my value once again in order for someone to listen to me before they're going to make the decision. We're going to get rid of that. Let's stop all that. Within the boardroom whisper technique, this is one of the biggest strategies that my clients use, because with it, they're making sure that not only are they speaking, but they're being heard, it lands, and their leadership is acting on it. They are seen as and recognized as a leader that needs to be at the table. One of my clients, I got a message just this weekend. She's like, yeah, my executive team is pulling me into the board meeting because they know that I can explain it better than anyone else can, and in such a way that it's actually going to move the needle in terms of deciding the strategy in what we want to do. How amazing is that? This didn't mean that she was working even longer hours. It didn't mean she had to talk even more, but because she's been so consistent, but in using the boardroom whisper technique, what she is now seeing is the fruits of that she doesn't have to say more. It's about what she says and how she says, and it's making impact, and people are sitting up and they're listening to her. And the last one is around creating the visibility of your thinking, of your results, and not just hoping that the output, what you've done, is going to be enough. So when you share your results, because this is one, I know we've talked about this in previous videos. If you want me to, I can share links to those videos as well if you want to figure out how you do this really effectively. But when we're talking about results, let's make sure that we don't just say, hey, I got these, I met this KPI, I achieved this sales target. Let's connect them to the business outcomes, to the business strategies that leadership is motivated towards, what they are aiming to achieve. Because once you start doing that, it's really positioning yourself as a way to start seeing, hey, okay, well, they're not just in execution, but they see the bigger picture. And that's what it's all about. We got to make sure that we are, in the way that we're communicating, we're not just only communicating about our results, but we are showing and demonstrating that we can think of the bigger picture. And you can think in the bigger picture, which means you get invited more often to those conversations where you have a seat at the table, making the decisions, determining the strategy, and moving the organization forward, making it a bigger impact. Now, I want you to ask yourself, do you recognize yourself in any of this? And I'd love to hear it in the comments. Just check in the comments here. Just drop it in the comments if you've got questions. But where do you recognize yourself the most? Are you stuck in the doing, in the firefighting? Or are you stuck in the, I'm trying to prove myself that I've earned this role? Or are you just simply overdoing it on all fronts? Like you're trying to work you're working your butt off. You're at 60, 70 hours a week. You're skipping family dinners or even like birthdays. You're just like, oh, I just got to get this done. Guess what? That's not helping. And I want you to just let me know. Where do you recognize yourself? Are you the one that is doing it instead of directing it? Are you firefighting? Are you trying to prove yourself? Just to make sure that people will follow you when you're in this new role. Now, if you've been nodding along, here is the truth. You don't need more hours in your day to get it all done. You don't need more hours to be a more effective leader, but you do need more authority and you need more credibility. And that's exactly what I help women with inside my accelerator program and also inside my one-on-one coaching. Now, if you want to start off with, here is what I want to invite you to: my private leadership brainstorm. Now, this is 60 minutes where we map out how you can shift from proving yourself to being seen as a strategic voice at the table. 60 minutes, that's it. Now, I want you to DM me if you're interested in that. DM me authority, and I'll save you a spot in next week's leadership brainstorm session. I'm going to be doing that, just check the calendar quickly, on Monday at 12 p.m. Central European time, which is 6 a.m. Eastern time. If you want a spot, then comment or DM me authority, and I'll make sure you get a spot in next week's brainstorm session because it is so much value. Now remember, you've already earned the role. You've been promoted. So now let's make it time so that you actually own that role, that you are in your own power as a leader versus you constantly trying to prove yourself and working yourself and wearing yourself out. If you're ready for that, again, DM me authority to get into the brainstorm. If you are ready already to just go like, hey, no, Kim, I'm already in. I want to jump in on a one-on-one or with an accelerator with me, DM me VIP and we will have a quick conversation and I'll share the details of that as well. Thank you so much for listening. And if you know someone else or this is good for you, save this video or share this with a colleague who could use the value that's in here today as well. Have a great day and we'll talk to you again soon.